everything that I'm saying now has been programmed into me externally. People think that I might have choices, but truthfully, I run to my default patterns like everybody else does. Welcome to satsang.
Do we really have free will?
A lot of people say that we do, but I know that we don't. Because I didn't program me. My genetics programmed me, my parents programmed me, my religion programmed me, my schooling programmed me, my government programmed me, my peers programmed me. I was totally brainwashed like everybody else into believing a heap of stuff that wasn't true. And because I believed it, all of these things became my default patterns, which I then operated out of for, well, until I was 19 years old. And at 19 I started undoing them all, because it became very clear that a lot of my default patterns, the programs that had been put into me externally, were detrimental to myself and others. But of course, I didn't come up with that idea. I was programmed to come up with that idea because I had some intervention occur. And so everything that I'm saying now has been programmed into me externally. People think that I might have choices, but truthfully, I run to my default patterns like everybody else does. But people don't examine themselves. They love to get arrogant and think, I have free will. Well, if you programmed you, then the decisions that you make would be your decisions, but they're not. They're what has been put into you by genetics and causally by your parents and society in general. And you will run true to whatever default patterns have been put in you. It's just the way it is.
It still feels like right now my actions and my thoughts are in my control. Why, if we don't have free will, do I still have that perception?
Because basically you're operating out of a computer that was programmed externally, not by you. And so it will run true to whatever programming was put in it. You didn't put the programming in. If you did, well, then you could say, yeah, I have choices. But you didn't put the programming in. Can you say that a computer has free will if it was programmed externally? Isn't it simply going to run true to what it was programmed to do and think and say? Wouldn't it be arrogant to claim that it actually has choices when it didn't even program itself?
Yeah, even though I hear you saying that, is the feeling, the continued feeling that I do, regardless of hearing what you say, is that because of a belief in itself, that a common belief that I have free will, that it's been perpetuated over time, that I've bought into?
Well, I had that belief also. But I started witnessing my mind when I was about 14, and after about 10 years of witnessing my mind, I got to see a great deal of how it was operating, why it was operating, where the programming came from, and it definitely wasn't me. It all came externally, and I was running true to my default patterns, including the default pattern of analysing my mind. I was programmed to do that too.
So if I have no free will, how can I go about changing my life and know that it's in the right direction, for want of a better term?
Well, I can only talk about my own direct experience with that. And the first major intervention that was positive in my life happened when I was 19 years old, when I attended a encounter group for 4 days called the Greatness in You Seminar. And they got through to me. They started to show me things that were in my way. They started to show me that my programming was false. They started having me challenge my limiting belief systems. And that was the first intervention, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But most people don't have intervention. Satsang, what we're doing here right now, this is intervention. But how many people are listening to this? And how many people are buying it? Most people don't watch their own minds. They don't witness their own minds, so they won't see it. They start believing the stories they're telling themselves, which are just dream. You get to see things by witnessing your mind, not by thinking about things. Thinking is just another way of dreaming. You witness the mind, you watch it, you see what it's doing.
That's all, thank you.
Okay. The greatest intervention that actually occurred to me after that, besides speaking to Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, was finding my own heart. When love, or unconditional love, which is true love, is experienced, it is an intervention. It makes you operate differently than how you've been operating. Unconditional love has you take care of everyone. It's the most beautiful form of intervention there is, but unfortunately, unconditional love only appears in openness. It doesn't really appear in closedness or defendedness. And most people are very closed and very defended. And so, Osho was a heart teacher. Jesus was a heart teacher. Because heart is the great intervention that changes people for the better. If there was more heart on this planet, we wouldn't be having all this trouble we're having. But there's a lack of heart on this planet. There's a great deal of mind warmongering. Heart won't get involved in war. Because heart takes care, it doesn't kill. It's the mind that kills. So the intervention, satsang intervention, is teaching the way of the heart, a way of being in the world that is beautiful, rather than a way of being in the world that is just survival at the cost of others. Are there any questions? Any statements? Any challenges to anything that's been said here this evening? Yes.
Sometimes I feel like I'm going backwards in terms of consciousness, I wonder, how do I know if my consciousness is actually dropping, or if I'm just seeing my dark side more honestly?
Just keep witnessing your mind. In witnessing your mind, you'll get to see it all. In thinking about it, you'll get lost. Thinking is just dreaming. Witnessing the mind shows you what's really happening. You witness the mind like a scientist. You come from a place that is not judgmental. In my case, I eventually started coming from a place that had a little bit of doubt in it as well, because my mind was such a great bullshitter.
Yeah, I feel that. So you watched it without judging, but at some point you intervened and changed the pattern?
Yes.
How did you know when it was time to actually make that change?
When I could see how detrimental the programming was to myself and to others. I had been programmed, like most people, to be a victim of life, to blame others for how I felt, to blame situations for how I felt. It wasn't until I was 19 that I realised that you actually had to be a volunteer to be a victim. And it was a choice. And from that point on, I have chosen never to be a victim. I take full responsibility that I make myself feel, and that nobody can make me feel but me. And so the blame game stopped completely. Intervention changed my life.
Yeah, I feel very grateful for the intervention I'm getting from you.
I'm just passing down what was given to me.
Yeah.
That's all, really.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Acceptance is not a default pattern of acceptance of life. But when I sit here with you, it comes easily. Why is that?
Because there's a Buddha field in this room that allows your mind to relax and be at peace. Anything else?
I sometimes wonder if it's my mind performing to accept.
Maybe. You have to witness your mind and see. Watch your mind and see what it's doing. Nobody can do the work for you but you, and nobody can witness your mind for you but you. Most people don't witness their minds, they just get caught in the dramas of the mind, which is the dream. In witnessing the mind, you have detachment from the mind, so you don't get caught in it. Hello.
Hello, Vishrant. I have a sense now of a vast space, and in comparison to today, there was some loneliness and separation. What is it that's made the difference?
An absence of you.
Yes.
That's it. That's the answer. Anything else?
I guess my mind is sort of a little bit scrambling to try and work out how to keep it and not go back to separation.
That pretty much guarantees that you're back in separation,
Yes.
because that is resistance to what is. And this game of higher consciousness is about surrender to what is, not resistance to what is. And surrender is brought about by acceptance and let go. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rohan, hello.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello, Rohan.
I wanted to ask you, what does chakras? How do chakras correlate to higher consciousness?
Well, as that has nothing to do with what I've been talking about tonight, I'm going to leave that one alone. Anything else, Rohan?
Yes. Are we programmed to believe that we are the mind and body, or is that a natural phenomenon?
No, we're programmed to believe we are the mind and body. Absolutely. And it's a lie. We are not the mind and body, we are that is aware of it. And we always have been, and we can't be anything else. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rohan. Hello, Veet.
Hi, Vishrant. When you're asked about free will, you always talk about programming. What about at a more cosmic level and things like predetermination?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, I don't know. I put that in the I don't know column, and that's a nice column to put things in, because then I don't have to think about it.
So I won't ask the same question in a different way again then.
You could try, but I'd probably give you some flippant answer.
So what has enlightenment shown you about free will?
There's nobody here, mate. There's just a bunch of pretenders pretending to be somebodies when they're not. You take away your imagination and you don't exist. The I doesn't exist without imagination. But most people think they are an I. Someone who's awake knows they are not an I, because the I is no longer here. What is here is the universe as self. And you are that. Anything else, Pete?
To what degree is willpower evidence of free will?
Well, it's not evidence of free will.
So what is it? Willpower.
That's exactly what it is. Resistance to something. Willpower. It can become a default pattern, which makes it easier.
So willpower is a program as well?
Everything that you think, everything you do is programmed. Everything. Either genetically or causally. It's all programmed into you. And it's all programmed into you externally. You're programmed to problem solve, and you think, I'm problem solving. No, you are programmed to problem solve. That's why you problem solve.
What do you think of the concept that gets bandied around about the higher self?
The what?
The higher self.
Well, I'd need to get a step ladder. The higher self. That's the ego projecting itself to be something higher than what it already is. It's just rubbish. There is beingness, which is what we are, and in that beingness there appears somebody who thinks there is somebody, but take away their imagination and they're no longer a somebody, because the somebody is just imagined. If you're a nobody going nowhere, what are you really? Without imagination, what are you really? This is the question seekers have been asking for thousands of years. Who am I really? Anything else, Pete?
No, thank you.
Okay. Prem Jayesh, hello.
Hi, Vishrant.
Hello.
You've talked about developing a raft to meet the world that's comfortable and helps you feel in control. How did you start to dismantle that?
Okay, so I wasn't aware that I'd created a raft when I first discovered that someone was talking about this. I thought that I was being real, that it wasn't all an act to get people to accept me and behave themselves. Because I was a boss. I've been a boss my whole adult life. And I thought my raft was real, but it wasn't real. It was just made up with a whole pile of different ways of being in the world, different belief systems, different understandings that worked to control my environment. But it wasn't real. And that raft was put together and designed by people who were successful in business, because I was programmed by them. But it wasn't real, wasn't who I was, but it seemed like that at the time. It was a successful raft, and so it liked itself, but it still was false. It wasn't until I started to glimpse my true nature that I realized how much of a bullshitter I really was.
Did most of the dismantling take place when you went on the 4-year walk around Australia?
No, I started dismantling my mind when I was 19. I didn't go for walkabout around Australia until I was 35. But during those years from 19 to 35, I did hundreds of encounter groups. Actually, probably thousands. I just loved it. I loved group therapy. I loved being taken apart. I loved having a look at myself and seeing what was working and what wasn't. It was an absolute inward adventure that I enjoyed immensely. Sometimes very painful, but always an adventure. Walking around Australia, I was looking for my heart, because that was the one thing that I actually hadn't really... People think of heart and they think of, oh, well, I love my children, I love my wife or my husband, or I love my friends, I love my parents. A lot of that's primal bonding. It's not really true love. Unconditional love is the most beautiful thing a human being can experience. There is nothing more beautiful. And unconditional love takes no prisoners. It doesn't get jealous. It doesn't get possessive. It doesn't get attached. Whereas primal bonding, which a lot of people mistake for true love, has all of those qualities. When I first experienced unconditional love, I was surprised. I was 33 years old and I was surprised. Because I'd been a businessman and successful in business, I was a war machine. And I was too closed. I was too defended. I had to walk around Australia and take away all my defences and open up. And then unconditional love started appearing in my life again. I started perceiving it again because of the openness and the undefended nature of my mind. And that led me to being in service. I went back to school because I was good at business, but that's all I was good at. So I went back to school and I trained as a naturopath and psychotherapist so I could have some tools to help people with. And I did that. And I loved that. That was wonderful to do that, to be in service, to take care of others. And then some Advaita Vedanta teachers came to Perth. And out of curiosity, I went and had a look at them. The moment the teacher walked in the room, his presence affected me. I woke up. It didn't last long, it was a satori, but boy, did it fire up the thirst for enlightenment again. I'd given up on enlightenment when Osho died in 1990. And in 1998, when this teacher walked in the room and I felt myself as the universe again, it was like fire. Anything else? Thank you, Jayesh. Hello.
You still have a lot of qualities that made you successful. How is that different to the raft that you had of success?
Okay. I only did the things that were in the way of higher consciousness and heart. I didn't undo anything else. So I still have a sixth sense of humour because it never appeared to be in the way. I still have a mind that is capable of doing business, but not as well as it used to. But it can still see a deal when a deal's a deal. Anything else?
Well, what did you drop about that successful raft?
The best way is to create an analogy. I was built like a Sherman tank, a military weapon. And I had to dismantle the weapon piece by piece by piece by piece. As I walked around barefoot around Australia, I took it apart because it was in my way. The journey began when I walked into my companies and gave everything to my staff, including the furniture. 14 offices worth, because I recognised that that was part of the tank that I was and it needed to go. The most important thing in my life was now finding heart. Okay? Hello, Jayesh.
We've spoken, Vishrant. It's all good.
What if I speak to Rajesh then?
Hi, Bhagwan. Vishrant, sorry.
So you've just been swapped out for a Jayesh.
Yeah, apparently. I have a question about how does consciousness relate to choice?
Well, I don't think it does. I think we have this idea that we have choice because we make choices. Like, I have a cup of tea here in a black mug, and I choose to have my tea weak and lukewarm and with 2 sugars in it and without any caffeine in it. Now that's a choice.
Yeah.
But I'm programmed to have it like that. When I grew up as a little boy, most of the time I spent with my grandparents. And my grandparents had cups of tea for breakfast, cups of tea for morning tea, cups of tea for lunchtime, cups of tea for afternoon tea, and cups of tea for supper, because they were trying to be English. And inevitably, always weak tea, and usually lukewarm by the time I got it, with 2 sugars in it. And so I'm programmed to really enjoy this.
But what about this feeling that the more conscious I live my life or try to, the more, yeah, it seems that the more choice I have. That's why I ask if it's related to consciousness.
Well, you have more clarity, and because you can see the things that are in the way, you can remove them, which might give you the impression that you have choice, but you're removing them because you've seen that they're in the way. And somewhere along the line, you've been programmed to improve yourself. And then you look at it and say, well, I did that, my choice. I don't think so. I think that's what you're programmed to do. Once you gained a certain level of clarity, which actually comes from witnessing the mind. I was into clarity at the age of 19. It was more important to me than anything else, because I realized as an entrepreneur, if you do not have clarity, you will fail. Clarity is an essential ingredient in the recipe for success in business. Anything else?
I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this, because especially how it relates to, let's say, discipline. And so the laziness we have, is that also a program?
Yes, it is. The same as if you're disciplined, it's also a program. Everyone's been disciplined who went to school. We had to sit through 40 minutes of boring bullshit every day for, 12 years. And that was just one class. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Is seeking a program as well? Like
Yes, it is. Anything? Yes.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
I don't really have a question other than it's more a statement, but you're talking about how everything's been programmed, even your preference for your cup of tea. I noticed that there's an excitement.
You want to have weak decaffeinated tea with 2 sugars in.
Well, not really, but there's like a kind of freedom in it, like the ability to completely change the way that I'm programmed. Like I didn't.
Well, I have been completely changed. Beginning when I was 19, everything that's been in the way has been removed. I don't have a belief system inside of me that will cause a contraction if the expectation on it was met. Nothing contracts here. That is a complete change.
I just feel so happy. Like I feel so happy to hear this. It's blown my mind. I don't know why.
If you could get into my head, you would say, I want some of that. Because my mind is high as a kite. And it always is, blissed out to the max. But I've learned how to operate with it. It's been tough. Yeah.
What's the best way to stay tuned into you at all times?
Just think of me. Whenever I wanted to tune into Osho or any of my other awake teachers, I'd just think of them and I'd tune into them. Or I'd put a tape on, a video or an audio, and listen to their voice, because the presence is carried in the voice. It's also carried in the image. I discovered, and I became a bit of a junkie for that presence. Because in that presence I felt a lot of peace and a lot of beauty. Okay? Anything else, Rajesh? You're going to go away now like Jayesh did. Okay. Hello, Prem Abahi.
Hi, Vishrant.
Hello.
I feel so happy when you spoke to Meera about tuning into you. So many ways to tune into you.
You're one of my disciples, and I'm with you. I'm here to help you get free. I don't really have another purpose to be here, really. Anything else?
Yes, Vishrant.
Of course there is.
Is there any healthy raft that we can create so that can help us in the path of higher consciousness?
All that's required is your willingness to go for it. And it's not an external adventure, it's an inward adventure. You have to see how you're operating and remove all the things that are in the way. That's all. And for me, I actually had a lot of external help with that. I had teachers, I had mentors and teachers from the age of 19 all the way up to awakening. Because I recognized that people who were further ahead than me could show me things that I didn't know about me and about life. The moment you think you know, in a lot of ways you're lost. Your arrogance keeps you lost. It's best always to be a beginner. Anything else? The answer's no.
Yeah, no. Thank you,
Thanks, baby. Hello, Frida.
Hello, Vishrant.
You asked for sannyas, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
You did. You asked for sannyas. Do you still want sannyas?
Uh-huh. I do.
Okay. So I've chosen you a name because I believe that the story that goes with it and its meaning will help you be more in touch with your heart and more yin. Your sannyasin name is Prem Komala. 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 And Prem meaning love and Komala meaning gentleness.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, very. Be gentle in all things and perceive love in all things. This is your path. Openness counts for everything. And Tosh made you up a certificate and he'll send that to you. Kamala. When I looked into you and I worked out what it was that would be best for you, because your life has been tough in so many ways, you have become a little too tough. And gentleness is now your way out. It is your path to freedom. To be gentle with yourself and to be gentle to others. The toughness helps you manage the world you're in, but it's time for that to go and to be replaced with gentleness and kindness.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. I had to go through that myself because I was a tough guy and I had to become a nobody, and then I had to become heart. And you can only become heart when you disappear. And gentleness is the way to yin. And yin, in yin, there's no you. There's only you really in yang. And so towards yin you head.
Wow.
You've got friends out there that are yin though. I found trees were all yin. When I could sit in a tree or hold a tree, I could feel that beautiful feminine receptive energy. Because unfortunately, every male that I've met and every female I've met, human, and they're all yang. The only people that I've met who are fully yin are those who are awake. And I'll bet you they were yin before awakening. Wide open. Wide open. So I give you Prem Kamala, Prem Kamala. Welcome, sister.
Thank you, Vishrant. I would like to ask about this topic of respect, because I had this disasters. I work in school, yeah. I'm a Spanish teacher and I work in school, and I had this awful class last week, and I just started to sob in the class, like crying. And then I thought, like, wow, I really have to work with this with respect. Like, why do kids come into my class? This was like, it's not like this all the time, but this is how I felt. Like, why do kids come into my class and have this play? It's a kindergarten instead of class. And you have been talking a lot about respect. So can you speak to me about respect?
Well, it's pretty simple, really. If you let someone disrespect you, you're teaching them they may do it again. And the world that we live in operates on respect. Whether you're in jail or you're in a street gang or you're a politician or you're working for some company, it all operates on respect. And if we let people disrespect us, we are teaching them that they may disrespect us again. And so as a spiritual teacher, if someone gets disrespectful, either they have to go or I have to go. One way or the other. Because it's not Vishrant that's being disrespected, it's the teaching. And the teaching is part of the triple gem. And the triple gem includes the teachings, and it includes the Sangha, and it includes the Buddha. And all of it needs to be protected by those who value truth. And so if someone's disrespectful, I have to go or they have to go. And that has happened here. As a matter of fact, that's happened quite a few times. People have got disrespectful and they've had to go or I've had to go. Such is life. But can you do that from a place that is wide open? Can you leave or can you ask someone to leave from a place that is wide open? If you can, your mind has already mastered surrender. And so there is the goal. When someone disrespects you, can you stay open? Or are you going to close to tell them to leave? Or are you going to close to try to bring it into line? Can you stay open no matter what? Can you develop a mind that is equanimous no matter what is happening around you. By the
I
way,
have a lot of chances to practice, that's for sure.
your way is gentleness. Now, the most gentle thing for you to do may have been to leave the class. I don't know. I don't know the protocols of your work. Anything else?
Thank you, Vishrant.
Lovely, lovely to see you with your new sannyas name. Yeah. You have red hair. I'm getting a lot of redheads coming along and saying hello. All these rangers, they must be all spiritual seekers. It's very beautiful. I'll see you again next meeting, if you come. Yeah. Hello, Mahan.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
There's some questions from YouTube viewers.
Yeah.
About Creativity asks, now that you're an enlightened person, what do you want to happen to your life before you leave your body?
Ask the question again. Now I am an enlightened person. What?
Now that you're enlightened, what do you want to happen in your life before you leave your body?
I don't care. I don't have a future. I don't have a future. I don't have a past. I have a now. And now, right now, is pretty good. The whole thing about future and past belongs to the ego. The ego here died 24 years ago. I don't have a future. I don't care. Other people care. I'm okay to leave right now. Anything else?
Kestron Funk asks, why do people attach to identity?
Why? It's part of the survival mechanism. It's just a program that helps the body and mind survive. You've got to remember that human beings are just survival mechanisms. They like to think of themselves as something special and something bigger than that, but really, a human being is just a survival mechanism, the same as a dog is, the same as a cat is, the same as a horse is. But because human beings have a certain level of intelligence, they can raise above that. They can find themselves as truth, which has nothing to do with intelligence. Anything else, Mahan?
And Kestron Funk also asks, how do we start to foster manners in line with love after living and being programmed in a victim-oriented mindset for a long period of time?
Ask the question again, please.
How do we start to foster manners in line with love after living and being programmed in a victim-oriented mindset for a long time?
Yeah, well, we learn to change things through repetition. It's the only way. You practice something else, practice something that's different for long enough, it becomes your default pattern. That's how we learned our original default patterns, by practicing them. I changed the default pattern of victim-orientated thinking by every time I found myself as a victim blaming something or someone for something, I stopped it. I just wouldn't remove it. I wouldn't play with it at all. I wouldn't get involved. I just stopped. And then, when something repeated, I'd have a look at the belief system that was supporting it. And I started undoing belief systems. And so, I'll give you an example of that. Someone betrays me. Well, I used to contract and get disturbed, get upset, tell them off. So I examined the belief system and I undid the belief system completely. So then when people betrayed me, nothing happened, nothing moved, because I didn't think it was wrong anymore. I undid the belief system that people shouldn't betray me. That was a really good one, because lots of people betray. Lots of people lie. People steal from you. They do all sorts of things. But I removed all belief systems that created contraction inside of me, because I was not interested in suffering. When we contract and go into resistance, we create suffering for ourselves. But we create suffering for ourselves. It's not someone else. It's not someone who did something. It's us. And I just wasn't into hurting me. Anything else, Mahan?
And Narasimha asks, is it possible to find heart without willpower? And how to develop willpower without discipline?
Yeah, well, you need discipline. It's true. That's how we change things. We all learnt discipline when we went to school, because we had to sit in that class for 40 minutes or however long. We had to study. We all learnt discipline. In the beginning, probably the most important thing to do is get present to reality. Nothing you think is real, but everything outside what you think is real. And so present moment awareness to what is real is actually meditation. That's not a bad start, actually. Getting present to what is real instead of present to what is not. Anything else, Mahan?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Willow, hello.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
I feel a bit scattered because I have a bad internet, so I haven't really heard you today.
Ah. Such is life.
Yeah. But I wanted to, this free will. So this morning it felt like I had a moment or a few moments of clarity, and I chose to end my relationship with my partner, and now Susan, or the personality, is really scared.
Yeah, because you've entered the unknown. And when we enter the unknown, the survival mechanism of fear arises to protect us. Fear is our main defense system, our main survival system that works to protect us. And if you serve fear, and some people do, they serve fear a lot, they don't have much fun. Because fear will have you not do. If you serve fear enough, as you get older, you'll become a hermit. Lock yourself away in some unit and get food delivered through some hole in the door. You'll start playing life be out of it. But it's in service of fear that happens. I was very fortunate in that I saw fear when I was very young, and what it was and what it did. And fear stops you from having fun.
Yeah, I can sense there's one part of me that really hopes that he will stop smoking and choose me.
So the sadness is coming, the grief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you, darling. It's not up to me to influence your decisions. It's your decisions.
Yeah, I think it have to be like this. Yeah. Even though I don't really want it.
When you laugh, you let stuff go, and when you cry, you let stuff go, and sometimes it's the same stuff.
It feels like it. Yeah, it usually comes quite like. I'm both kind of relieved and very sad at the same time.
Look, whatever choice you make, you have my acceptance. Whatever choice you make.
Is this true? Because I can feel, not that one, but is it true that I can really feel like my heart had chosen this man? Like it's not my I haven't chosen him. It's kind of, it was, I fell in love before I even met him. I just heard his voice and I kind of knew it was him. Is that true, or is it just a fantasy?
Even if it was true, the whole idea, from my perspective, that we're supposed to be with one partner for 50 years or so, in a way is crazy to me, because people grow apart. They develop different interests in life, and they grow apart. And I think it's a romantic notion that we're supposed to stay together forever. I don't think it's based in any form of reality. It's just romance. Not that I'm against anyone staying together forever, but people change. Particularly if you get into higher consciousness, you change a lot. And in this lifetime, I've left so many people behind in the different levels of consciousness I went to. I found that people were dropping away because the interests were different, the conversations were different. And so I've loved many people who have left my life, and I still love them, but the connection's not there in the same way because there's nothing to talk to them about. They're still talking the same language. They're talking caterpillar language and I became a butterfly. Anything else?
Yeah, I would like to just comment on Frida's new name, Kamal. It's really touched me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful name. Kamal, yeah. Yeah, it took a while. I had to tune in and it took a while because she comes across as so confident and so strong. And then I realized, there's the obstacle.
Could I say something about because Frida and Eric has been together for a long time ago, and they both been Minas, like, and Frida nowadays is such a sweetheart, you know, and this name was.
Anything else, Willow?
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm trying to lower my hand, but.
Okay, so I'm gonna. The name is spelt K-O-M-A-L-A. Kamala. It can be pronounced Kamal, but it can be pronounced Kamala as well. Whichever you choose is fine. But it has, yeah. Thank you for satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here tonight.